The question about Purim is, how did Purim become a Yom Tov? How did Hanukkah become a Yom Tov? When an event happens and you're in it, you're close to it, you really don't get a perspective. You don't realize, what did we just experience? What did we just see? Is this just good news for us? And we should just say, oh, good, and then continue with life? Or did you just participate in an eternally holy, awesome event that people are going to be talking about forever? Forever. How are you supposed to know? Or in the similar vein, Rabbi Akiva's students were sitting there listening to him, and they thought, wow, this guy's good. He's a good teacher. He knows lots. Did they have any idea that we would be sitting here quoting Rabbi Akiva? And that Rabbi Akiva will be quoted forever? How could they know that? Those who were very perceptive, maybe they did know. But certainly the average student of Rabbi Akiva thought, wow, this is very lucky. I'm glad to have such a teacher. They're rare. How rare? I had no idea. So it's only later that we get to understand or appreciate the greatness of an event or of a person and so on. I mean, we can't imagine Judaism without without the Rambam. He's such an indispensable part of everything. In his day, did they appreciate that? Or did they think that he was a little secular, a little the Moed Nevuchim, we don't read that book? So it may seem sad, but most great people are not appreciated until after. By the same token, most great events are not appreciated until after. So how did it become a Yom Tov? Esther insisted. Esther knew. And she said, I need this written down forever. Kisvuni l'doros. And so Sefer Megillas Esther became a part of Torah Shebiksav, because she knew that that's what it needed to be. That's the nature of the event. The Holocaust, on the other hand, may have been an even bigger event for the people at the time. But forever? And so the day it ended, those who were there remember, those who weren't there. After Mashiach comes, will we be commemorating the Holocaust? No. It's not one of those. Not that it's any less of a miracle. Maybe even a greater miracle. Because if you think about the Holocaust, it is a miracle that Haman planned to kill Jews and didn't do it. That's a miracle compared to what Hitler did. Haman got the king over 127 countries to decree against the Jews. Hitler got the whole world against the Jews. So when a king, let's go back. When Pari, who was a big king, couldn't handle or persecute the Jews, it's a miracle. One king, a difficult king, but Yetzias Mitzrayim, miracle. Now Haman. Not just one country. 127 countries are out to get the Jews, and they can't do it. Miracle. In the Holocaust, the whole world and they couldn't do it. So in terms of miracle, we're the biggest miracle of all. Of course, the tragedy was a huge tragedy as well. Whereas with Purim, it was only a threat. So what exactly is the uniqueness of Purim that it should be a Yom Tov forever? So you've all heard and you all know that the unique thing about Purim and the Megillah is that the Eibishter's name is not mentioned at all, not even once. Nobody thought about him. Nobody said anything about him. When the miracle happened, nobody said Baruch Hashem. Or if they did, they're not quoted. It's not written down. Godliness came down to earth on Purim. It's as if to say that at Har Sinai, the people experienced a great high, an amazing, awesome high. And that high lasted until Purim. Almost. Until the destruction of the Beis HaMikdash. It kept us inspired, it kept us going. It was a long honeymoon. The Beis HaMikdash helped too. Having Nevi'im running around constantly also helped, but it was a high. The destruction of the Beis HaMikdash meant the end of the honeymoon. All of a sudden, life became real. And the question was, where is your inspiration now? Now what's going to keep you Jewish? And that's why people panicked. The question on everybody's mind was, how are we going to survive? We're in Golus, we're a minority, mefuzar mefurad ben ha'amim, we're spread out among all the nations, we have no power, we have no influence. But that wasn't only a physical issue. How are we going to survive physically? The question really was, how are we going to survive spiritually without becoming part of the woodwork? You're scattered over 127 countries. All the Jews in each country will become part of that country. And there won't be anything particularly Jewish about us anymore. So that was really the issue. As a result, there was the question of whether we would physically survive. So that's why when they went to the party of Achashverosh with such relief and reassurance, if we're invited to Achashverosh's party, and he even makes sure that we're going to get kosher meat and kosher wine, and even Mordechai could eat from it, that gave them the confidence that they're going to survive. And that was a terrible mistake. Putting your trust in humans, putting your trust in princes. So the result, not as a punishment, but simply as a natural consequence, you trusted somebody who is not trustworthy, so you're going to be disappointed and you're going to be in trouble. So Achashverosh was fickle, Whoever spoke to him nicely convinced him. So instead of liking Jews, he suddenly hated Jews, and instead of being good to Jews, he's suddenly bad to Jews. There's no miracle here. There's no punishment here. There's nothing unusual here. So we learned our lesson. Our survival cannot ever depend on somebody's good mood. But basically, in terms of the process of Dira B'Tachtenim, Purim was a huge step. It brought the Dira into the Tachten for the first time. Because Eretz Yisrael was not a Tachten. Eretz Yisrael was a holy land to begin with. Having a Beis HaMikdash is certainly not the lowest, the Tachten. Being in Golus, scattered over 127 countries, that's Tachten. So in terms of the kavanah for which the world was created, Purim is a major milestone. Not because we survived. We're not celebrating survival, because if we celebrate every time we survive, we would be much more overweight than we are. Maybe we stopped making Yomim Tovim because we can't think of any new foods. But we got the blintzes, and we got the and we got the Hamantaschen, and we got the latkes. What else? It wasn't because we survived. If it's for survival, the Holocaust should be a much bigger yontif. Our survival is not the miracle. The miracle is Dira B'Tachtenim. When Elokus, when godliness comes down to earth, our project is succeeding, so we celebrate. To put it in different words, the miracle of Purim was Mashiachdik. If it's Mashiachdik, we celebrate. Because that's our project. Thanking God for our survival, we do that every day. So we might also say that Mordechai was the first leader, the first Rebbe who promoted the coming of Mashiach. Some people did not approve of him. Some serious people, some important people, did not approve of him. He was too involved in politics. He hung around the palace. This is not a holy man. And that's what they said about everyone who contributed to the bringing of Mashiach. Because on the one hand, you have to be very holy, and on the other hand, you have to be very down to earth in the tachten that is supposed to become the Dira. So let's look at a few interesting things about Purim. The Rebbe points out in the Maimer of V'yata Tetzaveh that there's a Mesiras Nefesh where you give up your life, and there's a Mesiras Nefesh that becomes a lifestyle. The awesome thing about the generation, or the year that in which Purim occurred, is that for the entire year the people were in a Mesiras Nefesh mode. All year. Every day of the year, they were in a Mesiras Nefesh attitude, mentality. How is that even possible? If Mesiras Nefesh means dying, al Kiddush Hashem, and you're in that mood for a whole year, you'll never be sane again. How can you? If every day of the year you're ready to die, yeah. This is so damaging. This is so devastating psychologically. You couldn't survive. And if you survived, you need a lot of help. So to say that that whole generation was basically troubled because they spent a whole year expecting to die, it can't be that that's what it means. If you're in a Mesiras Nefesh mode a whole year, it's not that you're expecting to die at any minute. That's crazy. To be in Mesiras Nefesh a whole year means you developed a Mesiras Nefesh lifestyle, and it has nothing to do with dying. What exactly is Mesiras Nefesh? It's not martyrdom. Other people have martyrdom. Other people give up their lives for all sorts of things, some very foolish. Even non-religious people risk their lives, give up their lives for sport, for money. That's not Mesiras Nefesh. That's wild indulgence of fantasy. You're not giving up anything. You're indulging. Right? So Mesiras Nefesh really means like this. A Jew gets caught by anti-Semites, and is told to bow to an idol or be killed. What does the Jew do? Gets killed. That's the best way to say it. But some people will say, well, he chooses to die. If he chooses to die, he's a Meshuggah. That's not Mesiras Nefesh. What kind of crazy person chooses to die? Death is not an option. Or some people say, he loved Hashem so much that he refuses to bow. That's pretty stubborn. But doing what you love best is called self-sacrifice. You're not sacrificing yourself. You're doing what you love best. And if you happen to love Hashem, and you're not going to give up your love, that's Romeo and Juliet. That's Mesiras Nefesh. That's the height of selfishness. Oh no, I'm not going to live without my love. There's nothing virtuous about that. Mesiras Nefesh means a Jew is asked, which do you prefer, bowing to the idol or dying? And he doesn't understand the question. What are my options again? Going to bow or die? Can you say that again? Because I don't hear an option. Bowing is dying, and dying is bowing, and what are you asking me? In other words, Mesiras Nefesh means I can't not be Jewish. I can't. I wish I could. I would love to bow to that idol and go home. But I can't. Not I choose not to. There's no choice. It's like saying, stop being a woman or I'll shoot you. Shoot me. What do you want me to do? Stop being a Jew or I'll kill you. Don't play games and just kill me already. And that's called Mesiras Nefesh. Mesiras Nefesh means there is no choice. I can't. I wish I could. These people who were being tortured or killed because they refused to bow to the idol, in their own mind, they didn't understand what they were doing. They were questioning themselves. Idiot, bow already. What's the harm? Couldn't do it. That's called Mesiras Nefesh. Now, why is it that a person will have Mesiras Nefesh if he's asked to bow to an idol? But if he's asked to work on Shabbos, If he's asked to eat a treif sandwich, you don't have to twist his arm too much. Why is that? For whatever reason, bowing to the idol suggests not being Jewish, whereas eating a non-kosher sandwich suggests not being frum. And Jews don't like being frum in the first place, so fine, so I'm not frum. Of course, that's not true. You don't eat a non-kosher sandwich because that's not Jewish. Not because it's not frum. But for whatever reason, like he says in Tanya, that the guy, the lowest of the low, who will die rather than bow to the idol, is confused. He's a little crazy. Everything else he'll do, just not this. But for whatever reason, that threatens his Jewishness. And the moral of the story is, anything that threatens your Jewishness, you can't.
You mentioned before, if someone's forced to eat non-kosher or something else, you're supposed to not if someone forces someone, it's better to be killed or to do
If someone asks you to bow to an idol, better to bow.
No, that for sure not.
Better
but
to
the
bow.
Other stuff that you make.
Not listening. Better to bow. It's always better to live than to die. So, halachically, you're not allowed to worship an idol in order to save your life. You're not worshiping the idol. You're simply bowing because you're told to. That's not called worshiping. So really, bow. That's the point. That when something threatens your Jewishness, it doesn't matter whether it's an Aveda or a mitzvah. You're not going to do it.
Of course not.
So, what happened in Purim is that for an entire year, the Jews felt that every aspect of Yiddishkeit, every mitzvah, every minhag, every custom, your Jewishness depends on it. So every mitzvah they did for an entire year was with the same intensity as the guy who refuses to bow to an idol. That's called Mesiras Nefesh as a lifestyle. In our generation, I think we safely say, every mitzvah a Jew does in our world today is Mesiras Nefesh. Not because they're going to die or get killed for it. It's Mesiras Nefesh because they have no reason to do the mitzvah or not do the sin. What makes them do the mitzvah is that they're Jewish. And that to them it feels like, if I don't light Shabbos candles, then how am I Jewish? That's the Mesiras Nefesh mentality. That I do a mitzvah because I have to be a Jew. Whereas in the past generation, or 2 or 3 or 5 or 10, you have to do a mitzvah because otherwise you're not Orthodox. Otherwise you're not frum. Otherwise you're not a tzaddik. Otherwise you're not a gadol. Anything but Jewish. In this generation, we don't want to be a tzaddik. We don't want to be a gadol. You're not going to get a lot of respect for keeping mitzvahs, not even from your own family. So why do people do mitzvahs? Because it feels like if I don't do the mitzvah, it's like bowing to an idol. I had a phone call from a guy, very sincere, straight, no shtick kind of a guy, young man. He says, I've started putting on tefillin lately. But I wonder if it's really a mitzvah, because I enjoy it. I feel like I'm coming out of Egypt every time I put on the tefillin. So is it still a mitzvah? Because I really like it. Can you imagine this? He's feeling guilty because he enjoys the mitzvah. So, what happened on Purim is not just another survival. They tried to kill us, they couldn't, we eat. It wasn't just that. It was a giant step in Dira B'Tachtena. It took us a giant step closer to Shechina coming down to this world and becoming the reality of our everyday life. As long as mitzvahs are heavenly, as long as being frum is a project for frumies, this is not a Dira B'Tachtena. That means that God is still a barely welcome guest in our world, but it's our world and not His. And we're very proud to have Him as our guest. In fact, we're quite arrogant about it, and we're sure that God is in my house more than in your house. So there. That's not a Dira B'Tachtena. So Purim was the first experience that we had being outside of Eretz Yisrael, being without prophets, being without inspiration, just plain people scattered in 127 different cultures and societies, and yet intensely Jewish. That was an amazing, not event, an amazing development, because that never went away. Once we acquired that insight or that reality or that truth, it never went away. So what happened with Hanukkah? What did Hanukkah add to that? How did Hanukkah increase or move the Dira B'Tachtenim forward? It was just another Golus of sorts. But that was in Eretz Yisrael. I don't know, which is harder, to maintain your identity or to maintain your philosophy? Maintaining your identity is much more fundamental. I mean, if you're not Jewish, then what are you? For somebody to deny their Jewishness is to deny everything. Your ancestry, your history, even your genetics.
That's why bowing to an idol is denying Judaism, and that's why they get killed instead of like...
But in Hanukkah, nobody asked them to deny that they're Jewish. Nobody asked them to give up being Jewish. On the contrary, they were suggesting that a little Hellenist philosophy will enhance your Yiddishkeit. That is so subtle. It's so harmless. Why would you fight that? Why would you risk your life to refuse a little Hellenist beauty, appreciation for the finer things in life? So that was also a major shift in how we understand ourselves and our Yiddishkeit that helps bring the world to its perfection. That may be why the Rebbe was so clear about the collapse of communism being a Mashiach-dik event. You want to see how Mashiach is coming? Look at this. Communism collapsed. What about the 6-Day War? The tiny Israeli army beat 3 armies at the same time in 6 days. Come on, you can't get a bigger miracle than that. And yet the Rebbe never said that that was Mashiach, that was Mashiachdik, that that's the sign that Mashiach is coming. No connection whatsoever. Because the miracle of the Six-Day War was, of course, a huge miracle of Jewish survival. What is a miracle of Jewish survival? An important aspect of Golus. When do we need miracles to survive? When you're in Golus. So if a miracle helped us survive, that doesn't mean Mashiach is coming. That means we're still in Golus. And it's a good thing that we survived. Now we can do something to bring Mashiach. But the survival itself, that's called a Golus miracle. But the collapse of communism, that's Mashiach. How so? Nobody defeated communism. It defeated itself. When emes becomes undeniable, even to the sheker, the lie itself can no longer resist the emes. That's Mashiach. That's dira b'tachtenim. When the lie, the facade of the physical, gives way and says, no, God is real. That's dira b'tachtenim. The tachten admitted that it's wrong. That's Mashiach. If some other country had come and destroyed communism, we would say, yeah, good for them. Wouldn't be Mashiach. Because that's going on all the time. This one beats up this one, this one beats this one. Was it? And we would be very happy because we don't like communists, so good for, we're happy to see them fall. But why is that Mashiach? But because it collapsed on its own, from within, not even an internal rebellion. It wasn't a civil war, like Lemake Mitzrayim Bivcheirehem, where the firstborn of Mitzrayim rebelled against Egypt. That was nice, Shabbos HaGodel. But this was not like that. The heads, the biggest, most powerful leaders collapsed. Said, we can't do this anymore. There was no civil war. That's Mashiachdik. In our own lives, the Purim experience is, what am I doing? I'm a Jew. So when you wake up one day, or you're doing something and you think to yourself, I really should be a little more frum. Ever think that? Maybe I should be a little more machmer. Maybe I should be a little more chassidish. That's nice. And the answer probably is yeah. But it's not Mashiachdik. If one day you feel, what am I doing? I'm a Jew. That's Mashiachdik. So the feeling that my behavior should be dictated by my Jewishness, not by my moods or frumkeit, that's Mashiach. Because that's dira b'tachtenim. Let's talk about another thing concerning Purim. There's a classic eternal debate in Torah. The question is, what motivated God to create the world? So on the word Bereshis, the Medrash says Bereshis means Beis Reshis. The world was created because of two things called Reshis: Torah and Jews. Which is very interesting that the first comment on the first word of the Torah is a reason for creation. Which shows that when you read, in the beginning the Eibishter created the world, your first question should be, for what? Not how. It's none of your business. You're not going to be creating a world. How did he do it? That's that. I'm not telling you. You want to figure it out yourself. But what you do need to know is, for what? So the first comment is, Bereshis, for two reasons. For Jews and for Torah. Or in different words, two things existed before creation that motivated the creation. Now, which of the two comes first? Came first? So the Medrash says, I don't know. But when you look into the Torah, and you see that the Torah and the mitzvahs are addressed to the Jews, Daber el b'nei Yisrael, and tell them so and so. If Torah is addressed to the Jew, then the Jew comes first. Because Torah is a message to the Jew. So what do we know now? Now we know that Jews come first. So why did the Medrash say, I don't know which comes first, and then figure out which came first because of the way the Torah is addressed? So just say, Jews come first because Torah is addressed to them. So it seems like the Medrash is telling us that this question will never go away. Even after you know that the Torah is addressed to the Jew, it's not clear. So which one comes first? And in every generation there's going to be this debate. And on Purim it happened between Mordechai and Esther. Esther said, I'll go to Achashverosh, but you have to fast for me. 3 days. It just so happened that those 3 days were the first days of Pesach. So Mordechai said, can't fast on Pesach. You have to eat matzah, you have to drink 4 cups, you have to eat the morer, you have to dip the whatchamacallit into the whatchamacallit. You can't fast on Pesach. So Esther said, but if there aren't going to be any Jews, what good is Pesach? So Mordechai agreed, and they fasted that year on Pesach. So the debate between them was, Torah comes first, or the Jew comes first? And it's a really difficult question to settle, because Jews give up their lives for a mitzvah. So what comes first? If Jews die to perform a mitzvah, then obviously the mitzvah is more important. On the other hand, if Jews are so devoted that they're willing to die for the mitzvah, then who comes first? Then the Jew is more important. So the debate rages on. Today, the debate shows up, these two opinions show up in how you inspire a Jew, or what is called kiruv. One opinion is, Torah comes first. If you can prove Torah is heavenly, Torah is awesome, every mitzvah is brilliant and brings great benefits, then the Jew will be inspired. The other approach is, if a Jew knew how Jewish he was, you wouldn't have to argue with him about the Eibishter and about Torah and about mitzvahs. It would all come natural. So instead of convincing a Jew how great the Torah is, convince him how Jewish he is. And then he'll pick it up and he'll run with it, and you won't have to convince him about anything else after that. These are the two approaches in Kiruv. the Chabad approach and the non-Chabad approach. Put on tefillin with a Jew? For what? Convince him. Take him to yeshiva. Give him a good education. Let him appreciate what Torah is. Then he'll be a good Jew. What's putting on tefillin with him one time? What's that going to do? The answer is it's going to make him feel like a Jew, and then all arguments are settled. So which comes first? The story of Purim shows that you have to put the Jew first. Esther was right. And that's why Mordechai agreed and fasted on Pesach, and the Eibishter agreed, and that's why he calls the Megillah Megillas Esther, not Megillas Mordechai. Not even Mordechai and Esther, or Esther and Mordechai. Just Esther, because Mordechai would have gone the other way. So, how do we celebrate Purim? Not by reading Torah, but by telling the story. We don't say Hallel on Purim because telling the story is the greatest Hallel you can have. You don't need any more than that. On Hanukkah we say Hallel. Even though we also light candles, the menorah, that's a spiritual thing. Whereas Purim, how do we celebrate? Not by lighting candles. We celebrate by eating, drinking. Dira b'tachtonim. Actually, I don't know if this is really relevant or not, but the reason we send food gifts is because just before the miracle of Purim, Jews became very suspicious of each other's kashrus. You went to the party? What did you eat over there? Oh, you didn't go to the party. Okay. So, are you really kosher? Could I trust your kashrus? All of a sudden, everybody was suspect. When the miracle of Purim happened, we realized that Jews are Jews and you can trust their kashrus. So if they send you something from their kitchen, you can eat it. So the whole idea of Shalach Manos was that we now trust each other's kashrus. Of course, today that whole thing is ruined anyway because you buy it from the bakery. And you're both buying from the same bakery, so what does that prove? So now we know that the bakery is kosher, but that was not the point of the whole thing. So the celebration of Purim is the celebration of the Jewishness of a Jew. And as a result, you can eat in his house, you can eat his food, but the main thing is the Jewishness of the Jew. And that's why, for the first time in Torah, Jews are referred to as Yehudim, not Bnei Yisrael. That's a really dramatic shift. Throughout all of Torah, you keep reading Bnei Yisrael, Bnei Yisrael, Bnei Yisrael. And all of a sudden, the Eibishter's name is not in the Megillah. Bnei Yisrael are not in the Megillah. I have to wonder, is this Jewish? There's no Eibishter, there are no Jews. What's going on here? What kind of book is this? All of a sudden, the Bnei Yisrael have become Yehudim. Because the emphasis now is on the Jewishness, not on your yichus, not who your grandfather Yaakov was, on your Jewishness, Yehudim.
Judaism translate into action? Where does Judaism translate into action?
Where?
As in, obviously from the Torah, but why do the actions ascertain your Jewishness if Jewishness is what matters?
See, that's exactly perfect question. Do I do mitzvahs in order to be a Jew? Or do I do mitzvahs because I am a Jew? So it's a very good question. If I already am a Jew, if I already feel like a Jew, why do I have to do mitzvahs?
People ask that all
So,
the time.
huh?
People ask me that all the time.
Yes. That's like that famous joke about the Russian Jew. You ask him, are you putting on tefillin? He said, what, in Russia? You crazy? Can't put on tefillin. When I get to Eretz Yisrael, I'll put on tefillin. You find him in Eretz Yisrael, you say, you putting on tefillin? He says, in Eretz Yisrael? You don't have to put on tefillin in Eretz Yisrael. Here, everything is Jewish. In America, you need to put on tefillin. So then you find him in America, and you say to him, so are you putting on tefillin? He says, what is this, Russia? This is not Europe, this is America. So when are you going to put on the tefillin? That's because we assume incorrectly that doing and being are two separate things. I am a Jew, why do I have to do anything? But that's nonsense. I'm your mother, why do I have to do anything? I already am your mother, so make your own breakfast. So if your mother makes you breakfast, it's like, oh, she does that too? She's a mother and she makes breakfast? That's amazing. What else does she do? Laundry? Wow. That's silly. So the thinking that the mitzvah is optional and the only real question is, am I a Jew? How do you separate the two? So when do we get to the doing? The being and the doing, they're inseparable. Why does a Jew do Jewish things? Oh, deep question. I don't know. So there's this guy, a very simple guy whose wife started keeping kosher. They were in their 40s. And he got very angry and he comes running over to the Chabad house in St. Paul. And he says, my wife came to a class here and all of a sudden she's keeping kosher. And I haven't kept kosher in 48 years. Give me one good reason to keep kosher. And don't give me no philosophy. This guy was one of those very Jewish Jews. Didn't do anything, but he belongs to the JCC and he's and he makes fun of non-Jews. That's how Jewish he is, right? So he says, give me one reason I should keep kosher. So I said, because non-Jews don't. He says, oh, okay. Why should a Jew keep kosher? Give me one good reason. Why should a Jew keep kosher? Who should keep kosher? The Irish? What are you asking? It's as real as that. So it's like saying to a sensitive person, you can't join the Ku Klux Klan. You can't. It's not for you. Well, I have freedom of choice. Yeah, you have freedom of choice, but you're not cut out for this. When the Eibishter says, don't eat these foods, and he says it only to Jews. Why? Because others can. We can't. Why? Because we're Jewish. So why do Jews eat Jewish foods? I don't know. I'm not a philosopher. What's the philosophy? Jewish stomachs can only handle Jewish food. Well, how come? How come what? How come fish swim in water? How come Jews have to be Jewish? Oh, I don't know. Deep, very deep question. Why do Jews have to be Jewish? I give up. But that's Dira B'Tachtin. That the Tachtin of my life has to reflect the Elyon of my life. So if I have a Jewish neshama that is the highest of the high, it has to express itself in my clothing. It has to express itself in my food. It has to express itself in my Tachtin. Otherwise, we have a divided life.
I was reading a little bit about Purim, and maybe I read it wrong, but it seems to me that like all of this whole decree came about because Jews went to a non-Jewish party. Like, doesn't really like add up, you know? Like the atmosphere was not Jewish, and therefore all Jews had to be
Killed.
Yeah.
You went to a non-Jewish atmosphere, that's it, you're dead. You're right, but there was something else going on. It wasn't that it was a non-Jewish atmosphere. It was that Jews adopted that atmosphere as their method for survival. If we party with the government and with the powerful majority, that's how we will survive. And that's a dangerous mistake. So it's not that they were being punished by a threat of annihilation, but that's the natural result. You rely on these people, well, good luck. So what the Gemara says, that they went and enjoyed the party. They had pleasure from the party. It doesn't say from the food. The food was kosher. So the atmosphere was not completely non-Jewish. I'm sure Jews sat on separate tables. But they enjoyed the fact that they were part of the majority. And that's a mistake. Let the majority be proud of the fact that you're willing to eat with them. That would be great. But that you're complimented and reassured by their love of Jews, don't bank on it. Either be the teacher or don't be in the classroom. That's the moral of the story. You have a Freilich Purim, more than last year. Last year was not so. This year. It should be a really happy Purim. Not just make happy, real happy. We should have real reason to be happy, and we should have real good news.